full up because I'm thinking I am on the wrong one. And no, but
And
yeah,
especially today on MLK Day. How are you feeling, Mary? Any side effects or
good. No, I had 2 days of kind of a sore arm and it was a little bit puffy.
mhm.
I had was felt like I was about to puke last night right before dinner, but Abby did too. So don't know if it was, just in the air or, but
Yeah.
no, I mean, I've gotten my daily check-in, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that sounded really cool.
I know. I mean, if nothing else is done right, they definitely put some resources toward, or are putting resources toward data gathering and follow up and that kind of thing. So, yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
And heard that my stepmother and dad got a time to get their vaccine. So I'm pretty excited about that.
That's great. Yeah, my parents got it today. So,
They got the vaccine today?
yeah, they got it today, which I was like, "Wait, you got it on Martin Luther King Day?" They're like,
Yeah, that doesn't take a holiday.
"Yeah,
um,
I guess so."
does did they have any trouble signing up?
They live in an apartment, a condo for
Oh,
old
gotcha.
folks. So I think that I think the whoever the what do you call it, immunologists, whoever the vaccine givers were probably came to their condo and gave it
Probably.
to everybody there. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what my parents got. They got the in-house treatment.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Everybody lines up, little old people all lined up in a row.
Well, my dad, not my dad, my stepmother actually, said that she had tried getting a sign up in there in New York, and
Mhm.
they just had a really hard time. I mean, my dad doesn't do anything computer wise, but New York has a little bit like Oregon, kind of gone back and forth, and yes and
Yeah.
no. Now they finally got an appointment only because a good friend of ours just happened to call because she had called and helped her mom set her appointment in South Carolina, and then she's like, "Well, I'm just going to call." And I mean, we're from a small town, and they just called and said, "Would you like me to help you navigate the website?" And
Mhm.
they were able to get in. They won't get it until mid-February, but at least they have a date.
Mhm.
So
That's so pitiful that it's so hard to navigate the website. I mean, my parents have enough trouble just putting me like on speakerphone or FaceTiming with me. And that just sucks that,
Yeah.
there's so many senior people in this country and we don't even seem to acknowledge them by making by making the website easier to use. Jeez.
well, it I don't know. And yeah, I wish.
My mom was telling me earlier she's in her 80s and living alone, much to my chagrin. But she was telling me about the service that the city of Cologne in Germany has created, where apparently they send every citizen over 80 a letter saying, here is the number to call for a social service, and that's coordinated with a bunch of religious organizations. So in her by zip code, so in her part of town, it's the synagogue that's taking care of it, and they basically run a social service worker to your house to help you deal with all the things. And apparently, this was an initiative that was started before the pandemic as part of the city taking care of its elder,
Hmm.
which
That's
I thought was just phenomenal, right? Because they'd
Yeah.
rather everybody stay in their home as long as possible.
right.
So now she has this resource available to her.
So
I
they'll
love
Getting
Germans.
never
They're
stop.
so, you guys are so organized.
Yeah, socialized medicine. Imagine.
It's the thing, yeah. Now she just has to get over herself and actually consider using the service. Please, will you do it
Why
for
does
me?
she not want to do that? She just doesn't want to admit that she has some health issues or needs, or she's too independent?
It's that. It's just like hating having to admit that she needs help, like
Yeah.
dealing with her, like all the stuff, all the things.
Hmm. I recognize that attribute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so in Germany, the recycling is done sort of per subdivision. So you carry your recycling things to a central location typically. And there's a bunch of like 8 different kinds of, containers to recycle your plastic and your glass and whatever, newspaper, whatever. So she's got a whole collection of little glass jars that urgently need to be carried to the recycling. And she doesn't have the strength anymore to carry it herself. Like, you're just going to have to get over the fact that somebody may have to come into your apartment to pick up the damn recycling.
Right.
Yeah, I can totally see how hoarders happen. I can totally see how, they find these old people buried in their recycling. That's my mom if she doesn't get over herself.
Well,
My
it's-
parents have a wagon,
Oh,
a
awesome.
little red wagon that they pull down the
Pull that
hallway.
wagon.
Yes.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Mhm.
Hey, Astrid, that was an amazing article that you shared yesterday after I sent out the Tallinn Man. Sorry, I didn't send it to everybody. I thought it might be kind of, you would be like, what the fuck is this?
Trump, or what was it about?
It was our conversation yesterday, and Astrid reminded me how much I love bog bodies, and then it kind of went down a hole from there. And then Astrid was telling us about the time that she spent at, what's the name of the islands again?
Oh, St. Paul in the Pribilof Islands in Alaska.
Yeah, I mean, the decline in the seal population is shocking. That's really, really scary. It's like they're just disappearing year after year. They're becoming a smaller and smaller group. And what's happening to them?
They're starving. The food's no longer in the ocean.
It's heartbreaking.
Did you say
They had a
bog?
whole bog.
But isn't
I-
bogs like, what, are there bogs in Alaska?
Oh, no.
I'm like, I thought I knew what a bog was, but
Yeah,
maybe I don't.
what are
I
you
was like, don't
talking
we
about?
see those in Scotland, not in
That was
Alaska?
a terrible description. I just jumped all over the place. I had mentioned how much I loved bog bodies and
Uh-huh.
I think I shared a book with Steve a long year 2, 3 ago about, written by
Bog
this
body.
archaeologist. Yeah, about bog
And I was
bodies.
using it as a descriptor for this place in Alaska where there's been a fur seal harvest for many millennia by the indigenous Aleuts and then by commercial fur sealers out of Russia before Alaska was bought by the U.S. And so you're on this tiny little island and there's this sloping ground, almost looks like a pasture that runs into the ocean. That is very boggy, right? You're in the middle of
Okay.
the Bering Sea.
I
It is
see.
actually boggy, and it's the killing field. I mean, that's where they harvest the 3-year-old male seals. As a result of which, there's a lot of bone that sinks through the
Oh.
bog and then gets pushed out onto the beach eventually, which is how yours truly came to be in the into the ownership of some petrified seal bones, which some people like to pick out when I'm sitting in my office. They see that I have all these curious things on my shelf behind me.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the curious artifacts behind me is a bunch of petrified seal bones.
I see.
Anyway,
Hence the
but I
bog
was using
body.
the bog body. I said it's like the bog body, it's only it's first seal leftovers.
Got it.
Anyway,
And now
yeah,
Rosaline
sorry.
has a book, a novel about a bog body. Do you, Rosaline? What are you
Mhm.
putting in the chat?
Oh my goodness.
Oh
Thank
my
you so
God.
much.
Yeah, well, it's
That is
not
going
quite.
on the reading list.
Well, it's not quite. Set in modern times. It's set in the 90s, and it's about a kind of slightly obsessive man who's obsessed with recreating Iron Age scenarios, and so he drags his family to this archaeology professor's kind of dig where a bog body has been found. So it's not necessarily about the bog body, but that's interwoven into the story.
Mm-hmm.
It's very
That
good.
sounds really exciting. Good.
I would
I'm gonna
say
see if I
close
can-
enough.
Yeah.
Close
It's
enough.
it's a good story. It's a good story.
Going on the reading list.
Yep.
Mm. Yeah, Ghost Wall, Sarah Moss. She's very good writer.
So she's written a number of other things. So what else does she write about?
She wrote, I've read her other one last year and I can't remember what it was because I read so many. What else is she in? Ghosts, where is it? Where are her books? Oh, The Tidal Zone, which is about a little girl who recovers from her heart. She has a heart attack and dies for a few minutes and recovers. And so it's her father coping with her survival. But at the same time, he's researching post-World War II Coventry. It's really weird. It's like the building of it's a very famous church that was built in Coventry after the Second World War, after the bombing. And so it's kind of the history of the building of that church. I don't know why, around the story of this little girl. So
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, she's quite an interesting writer because she mixes history with contemporary and a little bit obsessed with kind of academia, and she's an interesting writer. She writes quite short books, and I think she's kind of a writer's writer. Like I think she teaches writing at the University of East Anglia, which is the kind of most famous creative writing course in the UK. So she's well known by other writers, but she's not commercially that successful yet. But she's a very interesting writer.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. Peter might enjoy that too, because his mother was born during the bombing of Britain. And
right.
He's really interested in that period of British history. So I'll tell him about that.
Yeah, I just another nice interview with her. I'll just send it as well in the link.
Our Rosaline is who you need to go to when you need a book recommendation, I'll tell you.
Good to know.
Did you see she just posted her new stack of books, Dana?
No, oh, what? No.
On Facebook. It's so nice. She takes a picture of her stack of books, which always looks so. You buy all your books, Rosaline? You don't do library?
I don't do much library. I do some library, but I do a lot of secondhand bookshops, like charity shops, and get them there as well. But and Waterstones, the bookshop, I get stuff. I should wait, but now that all the shops are closed, I didn't want to kind of hang around. Yeah, so I've read one, two.
She's read a
three,
lot of
four.
books.
I'm on my 7th
2020.
book this year. So
Yeah.
Holy smokes. Wow.
Yeah. How many did you get to last year?
50. Hang on, I've got it written down somewhere. I've got the list of them. Well, yeah, but last year was, 55. Yeah. I mean, last year was exceptional, right? Because
Yeah,
there
that's
was nothing else to do.
an amazing number. It's
Yeah.
great.
Oh, it's but as a result, I'm not taking enough exercise, so I'm overweight. So But I rather
You got to get
go
like
for a
Chris
walk
and be able to read a book and walk at the same time.
Yeah, that would be great. Reading a book and a
We all
rowing
need to get
machine,
those
that's-
those
or a
skills.
Peloton, like a spin class while you're reading. That would be. That's what I need.
Yeah, that'd be pretty funny to see Chris walking down the trail.
With the book.
I would find that very concerning. I could just walk and read. We're taking a podcast. That's my
Speak of the devil.
as well. But I have a terrifying new scale that talks to my phone and to all my health apps, and it will tell me the weather too.
Astrid, your audio is a little bit muffled today. I couldn't hear what you
Yeah.
said.
Oh yeah, I'm trying a new device.
What, you'll do
It's
it?
not working. I can switch. Am I still muffled?
A little bit.
Okay. I'm gonna switch
What
back
did
to
you
my
say about
record.
your new device? I lost the end of that.
Oh,
Hey, guys.
Hey,
hang on. So now I have to figure out what to talk through so you can hear me.
while she's figuring that out, I'm sorry we're late, but we have a visitor and Dawn just did my hair again.
Ah,
Oh, nice.
Well, it's pretty dark, but it's
yeah, but I can
gotta
tell you
sit-
you got the sides shorter, yeah?
It's got to sit for 45 minutes.
Ah, Awesome.
I was
We know how that is.
my AirPods, but I'm not sure I like them for Zoom calls. So,
Oh yeah, that's better. Your audio is
Yep.
better now.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I was talking about my terrifying new scale. It's got all this electronic stuff.
You mean to
It'll
weigh your body?
weigh my body and my and it talks to all my fitness apps. And
Oh
probably-
no.
Well, I
No.
have to be careful with the
No.
settings.
That should have like
You
a
open it-
content warning on it. What do you,
Yeah.
it's like,
You really want to eat that?
yeah.
I was so frustrated. I had this scale that was like the first generation of those things that are supposed to cycle some electricity through your body to give you your BMI or whatever. And it was like I would step on it, I would step off it, and there'd be like an 8-pound swing. I'm like, that is just useless as a scale. So-
No, that's pretty terrible. I'd be upset about that.
Depends if it went up or down.
Yeah.
oh no, it was completely erratic. You know, it's like
Mm.
Well, then you could step on it as many times as you wanted and just believe what you want to believe, I guess.
Exactly.
You'd be like, I'll just take
Low is
whatever I
better.
like.
That is exactly what describes my strategy.
And
Huh.
don't use that BMI. Dawn can tell you
Yeah.
all about that.
No, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
whatever it's supposed to. Yeah,
Incredibly inaccurate.
I know.
Yeah.
Do you remember that was such a thing in the late 80s and early 90s at gyms measuring your BMI? And I just remember always thinking, my God, this is what?
Yeah.
It just-
Actually, insurance companies still use BMI, and that, I mean, I
Do
think
they?
that's,
Mhm.
They do,
Whoa.
yeah.
yeah. Um,
With my
Wait.
health insurance, Aetna, we have to get, if you get a basic health thing once a year, you get a lower premium. And BMI is one of the things that you don't have to have a certain BMI to get the discount, but you have to find out, your cholesterol level and your this and your that, and your BMI is one of them. And I'm like, I don't know that they should be telling you things that aren't actually evidence-based. Like,
it's
Yeah.
not even evidence-based as much as like accurate. So the whole BMI system is not, it's not accurate. I don't,
Mhm.
it's kind of perplexing to me, even just as a person that doesn't have to know much about science, that is the most inaccurate. I mean, there's tons of big bodies examples out there. I remember when they used like Shaquille O'Neal as an example, saying like, this is going back a long time ago, of course, but they're like, he would be considered obese, unhealthy. He would get a
Mhm.
poor rating.
He's a
Mhm.
giant.
And that's the problem, right? He doesn't fit the parameters of a BMI,
right.
which was
Yeah.
formulated back in the 40s, maybe?
Yeah.
Something, yeah.
Well, it's kind of like when I watch football, there's guys that are my size and they're 200 pounds or 225 and they don't have any fat on them. But
Yeah.
by BMI, they're like obese.
Right.
So Astrid, if you're interested in that, or anyone in Portland, there's a guy down in Clackamas Town Center that has a system. The name escapes me right now, but it's pretty accurate. And it also gives you tons of information, like how much like your muscle on each arm weighs, how much.
Oh my God, yeah.
How
It's a
much
body fat.
Yeah, it's
What's
a
it-
body fat, not a BMI, and it actually measures your visceral
Yeah,
versus your subcutaneous.
right.
And so the data is super, super interesting because it's not just like one number. You have all these numbers,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
it's
So
a great.
this
They
thing
can tell you-
purports to do like fat, water, and muscle percentages.
Yep.
My
Yep.
new device, and that's helpful. I remember that back in the day when I was running marathons, you could watch my weight go up, but it was muscle, right? And the
Mhm.
inches were just coming off. It was really interesting. And so I figure like that's helpful. Those percentages could be helpful.
Yeah, good. I
Yeah,
remember when
yeah.
Peter was running marathons, he would lose 10 pounds in that period of time, just that 26 point whatever miles. And then it would, 48 hours later, he's back to normal again. It
Yeah.
was
It's
weird.
miracle diet. Just run 26 miles.
Run a marathon every day.
22 miles.
Okay, so Dawn, this guy's test or whatever it is would be able to, you said visceral fat, so they'd be able to tell you if you have like too much fat around your organs,
Yeah.
which is super.
So there's a
unhealthy.
number that, yeah, you have that. I mean, honestly, I've been working with this. I think I've been working with them probably almost at least 10 years. And yeah, it's great. You go down there and it's actually, it looks really hoaxy, I guess. You stand on it and you have these handles that come out, and it measures through the body, but it will give you a visceral number, which is like a 1 to 10, I think that chart is. And so it really gives you a lot of indicators, not just body fat.
Yeah.
And you can see, especially if you've had injuries, where one limb will be lighter than the other.
Oh, interesting.
And then you can
Oh.
see where, like, if your, body fat is being stored in your trunk, versus legs, like there's a big difference, especially, well, with anyone, men or women, but you can have someone that's thin on the waist up and store all body fat in the bottom, right? So, and he's super helpful and super, like, you'll love him from the first minute. So it's called Max Muscle.
Hmm.
And
That's
it's down in
interesting.
Clackamas, and his name is Jimmy, but yeah, anyways,
If you go, tell him that Dawn sent you,
yeah.
Oh,
No, you should.
because he'll give you,
He'll probably give you
It'll
a
work
deal.
with you.
yeah. Oh, my
some
Yeah.
random person walking.
He
in.
usually does first test free, second, and then second, you pay for the second one.
Mhm.
Yeah, anyways, it's just super good data, especially if you like data. This stuff is, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Sounds
Very
like it's good information to have. I mean, just overall, especially as you're getting older and being a female with Zippo estrogen left.
Yeah, and there's he can explain it really in detail, but I think what the most important thing is that he gives you a basic sort of simple approach to look at with certain numbers and saying, like, this is what you want it to appear like on the graph, and this is what it looks like now. Like, your graph might look like a C, and he's like, we don't want it a C, we wanted a D, or we don't want it a D, we wanted a C. Like, it's a very, like, oh, okay, that's my goal.
That's cool.
Anyways, that's my little 2 cents for Jimmy down at Max Muscle.
Jimmy and Max
A
Muscle.
little plug.
Awesome.
Jimmy.
From bog bodies to just better bodies.
Oh my gosh, that was insane, Mr. Thowlander.
Oh, that was
Or-
the Tolland man?
Yeah,
I
that was
mean,
insane.
jeez, he's so perfectly preserved. It just looks like he's sleeping.
His beard.
Mhm.
That's a
hair,
creepy.
that was just-
Yeah, that was a good.
I missed
yeah,
this. Where
for
was
sure.
that? They recently found a bog body?
No, this is from a number of years ago.
Oh.
It's Tolland, Tollund or AND,
Okay.
man. And
We were talking about it yesterday.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And he's in one of the museums in Copenhagen.
Still preserved, huh?
He looks just like that.
It's
amazing.
ridiculously like because you can see his facial features. Like, I mean, he's like, his eyes are closed. He's like, so they presume that he was a sacrifice. Yeah, it was really quite wild to think like,
Yeah.
oh, he was like 200 or 300 BC or 100 to 200 BC, they figure.
Yeah.
They know what his last meal was. They know that
I
he
know.
probably recently moved like 20 miles away, 20 times in his lifetime. That's what they said.
Yeah, that's
That's
cool that they
awesome.
can tell that, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Yeah, weird.
And then
Yes.
one question for Astrid. So you also shared a link to the place up in Alaska with all the seals. And have they discovered why so many seals are disappearing?
Yeah, the short answer is they're starving. There's the marine food webs are severely disrupted from overfishing and
Okay.
then the beginnings of climate change, the whole sort of accumulation of through the
Okay.
food chain. I think that's my understanding. Last time I talked to an actual biologist about this stuff.
Yeah, I figured
Yeah.
that you might have the answer. Yeah, because, very interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting when I had the project there years and years ago. So there's these tiny little specks of islands in the middle of the Bering Sea, St. Paul and St. George Island. They're separated by 40 miles of water, and fur seals are part of the traditional diet. So when you show up, especially as a very obviously white person, you invariably not only do you get invited to a meal, but they invariably put fur seal in front of you to see your reaction.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm German, I'll eat anything, right? Like, it has a face with cute whiskers, great, bring it. So it was interesting because on St. Paul, the fur seal dish tasted different from the same dish, like some stew, on St. George. And the explanation was that the seals eat different things.
Mm-hmm.
So on St. Paul, they predominantly predate on, I think, halibut. And on St. George, they were feeding on a diet rich in salmon. and you could taste it. You know, sometimes like chicken has a weird fish meal to kind of taste to it. So in the same way, the meat tasted a little bit different because of what they were eating in the marine food chain.
It makes sense with that. That's pretty cool to witness that so close together, like two different flavors of the same species.
2 different flavors of the same species, anyway.
Yeah.
I prefer the halibut seal.
The halibut seal. Hey, I fit right in. They were just like all the grannies were just so enthused by this big German lady who's just like, seal. How many different ways can I eat seal?
Give me more.
Traditional foods, bring it
Great.
on.
Yeah, thanks for those shares.
Yeah. They're also known for their seabirds. I don't know if anybody is a bird watcher, but these islands have just crazy accumulations, like over 200 species of birds that you can observe.
Wow.
Pretty
That's a
wild.
lot.
Yeah, so it's this really, depending on what time of year you're there, you get these really, I don't know, bird watchers. Like some of these hobbyists, they have a certain type, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And there's some really interesting characters who show up on these
Mhm.
tiny islands with they have these books and these charts where they're sort of like, it's like sort of big game watching, I guess.
Yeah, they're checking
You're
off all the-
checking off all the species.
Yeah, they're counting how many there are to.
Yeah.
Oh, Laura must be one. She knew exactly what she was talking
Oh,
about.
I've read about
No,
it too.
I actually worked with one. I can't remember if I told the story, but there was a guy I worked with in Jakarta who was a birder, and he always asked for the same hotel room, a very specific one that oversaw, it was at, like the 8th floor and oversaw Senayan, Rosaline, like one of the biggest green areas in downtown Jakarta. And he would take off in the afternoon and sit at his window with his binoculars, and he would check off the birds that he saw. And he actually, I think he came back for 3 years running. And during that time, he made a sighting that was like written up in a journal because he saw a bird that was unusual to, Jakarta, like something about the migratory, whatever. But
Yeah.
he was doing he was trained as a public health official, and he was, birding was his hobby, but I learned about it because of him.
They're serious business. I
Yeah.
had an aunt and uncle who I dearly loved. They were big mushroomers and birders. But if you were driving with Aunt Judy, you could be driving down the highway and she had it in reverse before it even stopped. It was like, woo, did you see that thing? And all of my brothers are big birders, but not to the extent that my aunt and uncle were. But they are all 3 brothers are colorblind. My middle brother sees like a cat, so he sees in shades of gray. And so where someone like myself who's not a birder, I love birds and I'm very interested in them, and I can tell a little bit, I have my handful of birds that I recognize, but he doesn't see color at all. So where you and I would go, oh, that's a red cardinal, or that's a scarlet tanager, or by color, he knows the flight pattern and the shape, but doesn't see any color at all.
Wow.
So it's kind of a different, or by the bird song and things like that. But
More acute to other.
yeah.
Okay, well, shall we get going? I did one for MLK Day.
Oh, cool.
Well done.